The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its leaders, members, and contributors. Every week, your host, CEO of Two Small Men with Big Hearts, Stu Starkey, shines the light on a community to raise awareness of their leaders, members, and contributors. So together, we can create positive impact, inspire change, and help those in need of assistance at a grassroots level. Welcome to the community of Big Hearts.
Welcome back, everybody, to the community of Big Hearts. This week we're here with Alexandra Blinder. A little bit about her. When I was doing some research, I read that she's background is with the Israeli army, and then went into being an analyst in a bunch of different roles. So this is the first time I'm meeting Alexandra, and no offense, Alexandra, but I expected like a straight edge, like military, making sure that every minute is accounted for. And she came in and she's got this like bubbly, warm personality. She's wearing a t-shirt with a big heart on it for us and the cause. So I'm so excited to chat with Alexandra about her initiatives and what she's doing. Some great messages to get into. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Alexandra, and give us a little bit about your history and your story.
For sure. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me and hearing my story. I'm really excited about that. We immigrated to Winnipeg, I think, 4 years ago. It was really, for us, the right decision. We wanted to improve our family and life balance. And one of the most important things for us, for me and my husband, is really supporting, because you cannot volunteer and give back if you don't have a family support, especially with the two small kids at home. So from that point, my background, as you said, I was in the military. After that, I went to I learned economics and business in Israel, worked in a couple of roles there in finance, and I really love numbers, and I love sharing the story behind the numbers, because sometimes it's different people interpret numbers in different way. So I like to have the opportunity to share different views. And I was really fortunate to work in the finance field and feel really comfortable from that. And then I thought, okay, how can my knowledge of finance can help other people? And one of the most important things is sometimes we are struggling to understand numbers, not only companies, but also individuals. So I started working back in Israel, and when we immigrated here to Canada, to the amazing Winnipeg, I looked for opportunities. Where can I volunteer? And one of the options that came up is through Spark, to share my knowledge with a nonprofit. And I did a project with them, with a nonprofit here, to help build a budget. And a year later, they approached me for another project to work with another nonprofit to help them build a budget, and it was successful. And the budget were used for grants and other stuff. And on the side, I also was able to volunteer with a couple other nonprofits here to help out. And I'm also trying to share my knowledge. I think it's something that is really, really important to me.
You teed that one up for me perfectly. So what we're trying to do here on the Community Big Hearts, I was sharing a little bit of this story with you before we started, is we're trying to inspire others to give and leverage our giving and lead by example and inspire others to either use their platform to give or themselves give. And you're doing both. And with such an energy, it's really cool to hear your story. I want to dive a little bit into Spark, because I've dealt with them a little bit, and they're like the epitome of what we are trying to do and achieve. I couldn't believe, when I was reading about them and then started talking to them, I was in awe of how great of an organization they are and how efficient they are at giving. Because basically what I understand about them is they find charities that need certain skill sets, and then they go out and go find those skill sets of people who are willing to donate their skills to those charities. So they're basically marrying a two-sided marketplace and efficiently giving to back to the community through those charities.
That's exactly what they're doing. And one of the most important things, their process, they're really asking a lot of questions, both sides, and in order to see that the match is really right. They're sharing what's the needs of the organization and what the individual are able to do, and seeing if it's a match. And during the first meeting, they help to build a unique process that both sides agree on, with timeline and everything really, really, really to the smallest details. So both the organization and the individual will know the expectations. And one of the things that I love, when the expectations are on the table, it's really easy to follow. And it's really easy to understand and to work together. And if there is some difficulties, you get back to that and see how you can change or modify that. But you already have a conversation. And even it's a person that you meet for the first time, or organization that you learn about for the first time, how they work, they know that you're there. Like for me as a consultant, I was there just to help, to see how my knowledge can improve or can increase and to make easier their day-to-day life. So from that,
Spark's awesome. Now we heard a little bit about your life and coming to Canada, and now some of your roles you've had, but in researching what you're currently doing, I don't think that quite tells the full story. I didn't realize you had 2 kids as well on top of this, but you sit on many boards.
Yes.
You're giving back through Spark, and what she humbly didn't say is that she won Volunteer Manitoba Pro Bono award winner this year, which means you probably gave quite a bit of your time there as well.
Yes, it's a funny story about the volunteer Manitoba. I'm really humble. I don't know how to say thank you for awards, and I was so surprised. I'm always following Spark because it's their inspiration, and all the consultants are doing an amazing job. And I was following on Facebook or Instagram, reading about the work the consultants were doing from different aspects, for marketing, from business, for accountings that were doing. And I was really reading about those individuals and was thinking, wow, there's such an amazing people that are really helping the community and helping the nonprofits grow and improve their processes. And I was like thrilled to read about that. And then I'm receiving a phone call that I won the Pro Bono Consultant Award. And I was like, what? Like, I was so shocked, and I'm still cannot believe that. I'm still really, really surprised by that, because my roots, I really believe in helping out as much as I can from different aspects. And receiving an award is just a really nice bonus, but that was not the goal. Right. The goal is really to see what tools do I have that I can give to others, provide them the tools that they can grow and make better decisions for what's right for their business or their personal life. So
I was talking to Ryan about this before you arrived, and we have an interesting story that we'll probably share in the future. But in processing that, it really, for us, the biggest thing is just about having impact in the community in a positive way. That's the reward for us, and I think for most people once they really kind of search why they're giving. And I hope I didn't lead you on your answer in this next question, but why do you give?
That's a really, really good question. I think it comes from knowing that when we immigrated here to Winnipeg, and when my parents first immigrated to Israel from Ukraine when I was 7 years old, there were people there. They supported us, and they helped us to, from the first step that are like understand basic needs or understand the Hebrew language in Israel, learn the English we knew, but we didn't know like all the
It's a tough question
Yes.
to answer, and that's why I really like asking it, because I think that's at the heart of trying to inspire others to give. And it took my business partner and I a few soul-searching days to figure out what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. And it was some of the best time that I've had really soul-searching, was figuring out that answer for us. And then realizing that we're probably not alone, and having this discussion hopefully will inspire, the person that we're having the discussion with. Obviously, you don't need that inspiration, but this conversation between us with others listening can inspire them to give.
I think it's like when somebody is helping you, when you're, I don't know if it's a rock bottom, but in the beginning that you don't have many tools, or you don't understand how the things works, and somebody sits with you and guide you through all the process and provide you the support, it inspired me to understand that when we will have the time and we will have the opportunity, I want to do that. Right. I want to help others to ease their life a bit with the tools and the things that I already learned hard way.
Yeah.
Sometimes really hard way.
Yeah.
But to make their path a bit smoother. And one of the things that all the workshops with women that I do, they ask me why you give your time, why you persist in saying that women should know and understand finance, why you persist on that. And I'm saying, because you can. You are able and you have the knowledge, and if you don't know something, I'm here. And I can share with you different views, but don't be afraid. I'm here just to, hold your hand and to see that that's possible. And I don't know, just encourage that way. And sometimes also in an organization, I just want to encourage that it's possible and you can do that. And that's something that it's easy and it's comfortable, and people can make like the first step. And if you do the first step, it's a bit easier to roll.
Yeah, for me, the analogy is it's like going to the gym.
Okay.
For me, like, I'm got to work up the energy to go to the gym, but when I'm done, I always feel great after. I feel like joy that I went. And I think it's similar with giving, that it's going to take energy and you're working up about how hard it's going to be. But then when you do it, you're like, oh, wow, that was awesome. And that to me is like, okay, so the difference between joy and pleasure. Pleasure is those guilty pleasures that give you a jolt of dopamine, but then they're short-lived and they're gone. Joy is that thing that takes energy, that's hard work, but it feels really good for a long time. And to me, that's giving back, or going to the gym. But yeah, that's a great conversation. So the second question was, what's a story that you think of for you that had the most impact when you were giving?
The story that why I continued giving, and why when we immigrated to Winnipeg, I knew that I will go back to volunteering. When I was in Israel, again, I'm from the finance field. Like you're comfortable with numbers. It's easy. You understand it. You love it. You like when people are afraid for numbers. You're saying, sit with me. I will explain. You will start loving the numbers. Don't worry about that. And I was fortunate to volunteer back in Israel with an organization that comes to families and helps them get out of debt, to understand why are they in such why they're not able to go on vacation, or why they're not able to maintain even the basics lives, and they're like a huge credit debts, or really have such a huge loans that they're just continuing. and I was working with a family that started with like their income was around 10 like I'm trying to translate to like the Canadian dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Their income was around $5,000 a month, and their expenses were around $10,000 a month. And it's like a family with two working parents and two small kids. Not small kids, I think they were around 10 and 9. And then we worked together to understand where are their spending goals and what they can do in order to increase their income. And after 6 months, it was like the opposite. They were able, because she was a teacher, she started doing private lessons. The kids started helping out. The husband, we worked with a couple of organizations to increase his income, and eventually it's flipped. Their income became 10 like after 6 months, and the expenses, because they were aware of that and they were making smarter decisions, that they were their decisions. I just asked the questions and asked, do you really need that? Is it something that you want, or is it something that you need? And just changing that view, it was something that inspired me to see that families sometimes just need the right guidance, and they can make those decisions. And that inspired me to continue doing that and continue supporting from explaining the finance or sharing that it's just decisions, daily decisions.
Yeah, I, like you, I'm a numbers guy. So hearing that story, I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I love those kind of conversations and helping people, because we all have our own skill sets,
Yes.
right? And I'm sure they have their own that are much better than ours. And you just got to figure out how to unlock that. And numbers are so useful, because I think that it's an underappreciated skill, or an under taught skill, or explored skill, where us kind of number nerds, we get to really, use that quite usefully, as you've done with Spark and in your career. And yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for all of your giving. I know Ryan found you and brought you here, and he was also really excited to have you on. And I think he may have a question or two for you.
For sure.
It's one of those things where I'm always curious as to how somebody got started. I want to understand their first volunteer opportunity. The reason I want to understand that is because a lot of people who are going to be listening to this or watch this, they might not have volunteered at all.
Yeah.
So I'd love to understand what your first volunteer opportunity was, and why did you get started with that?
I was always wanting to volunteer, and when I started working, learning, and then we had our twins, and when they were 6 months old, I think, I'm just trying to remember. When they were like about 6 months old, and I was starting talking with my husband and saying, I need time for myself. And he said, sure, you're doing amazing, raising two twins. It's a challenge, so if you want to go out, do something for yourself. And I think around that time we were back in Israel, and there was a course for like financial consultant, volunteer consultant in Palmonim organization. I said, okay, I want to do that course, and my husband supported again. He said, yeah, sure. And I did a course in Palmonim that is really teaching you how to come to families, how to guide them, what's the right question to ask, not to push them, but just to encourage and help their hand. And eventually I started being a consultant there, again, pro bono, without charge. And it was like, I think it was like first family, it was like 2 hours in every 2 weeks. And it was in the evening, so it was nice. Kids went to bed, mom went out, came back really late, but my husband was really supportive of that. And that's the amazing part, that if you have like those 2 hours in 2 weeks, or even like 2 hours in a month, there are so many opportunities. Even here in Manitoba, when we came, we we started work, but the kids were also in their daycare, and I asked again my husband, can I volunteer? Do I have that opportunity? If I will find the opportunity, and he said yes, for sure. I'm here. The kids are fine. Everything is taken care of. Do what you need for yourself, and if you can give back, that's amazing.
So, sorry, Stu, one more question. Go ahead, please.
If you don't mind, yeah. This message is so important, and what I picked up on that, and what I want to keep driving home for the listeners, is that you initially weren't doing it for others. You were doing it for yourself. It was your therapy. It was your time away, and this was something that was meant to make you feel good.
Yeah.
And like, volunteering shouldn't be something that's a chore. It shouldn't be something that's giving to you as well. And I love win-wins. I love, being a numbers guy and seeing 1 and 1 make 3. Yeah. That's the arbitrage of life. So God, sorry, Ryan, I just wanted to get that point in there.
You and I are simpatico, brother, because I'm going to say the same thing, in that people think that volunteering is about being selfless, and it's about continuously giving, and it is.
Yeah.
But there's a selfish component to it as well, and the fact that you are not only just giving to others, but you're also getting something back in return. So it is a give and take. Yeah. So you did it, and you searched for it because you knew it would also make you feel good. So I think a really key message here to people who maybe aren't thinking about volunteering because they think it's difficult and it's something I got to do. Maybe you need to find the right opportunity that is a match for you. Do you like animals? Maybe you can give your time to a dog shelter, a cat shelter. Maybe you enjoy conversation. Well, maybe you can go and speak with people at like Golden Door or an old folks home. What is it that you truly love doing? And once you know that, then you can find a way to find how you can match that with volunteering. And I think that's a really good message to get out here, in that volunteering shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be difficult. It should be something that you enjoy.
Yeah, there are so many different organizations, and we are lucky here in Winnipeg to have such a huge community of nonprofits, and they really need the support, even like 2 hours, a couple of hours a month, something that you can come up. I know that there are people that even like companies support 1 day volunteering, and people are not doing that because they're like, where would I find a 1 day? Reach out to any nonprofit, and they will love for your time and your support and your help on that day, and that will be awesome. Like in my case, because I was fortunate enough to volunteer in Helping Hands for Manitoba for breast cancer. It's from the and again, and from Light, that it's more on the helping and providing tools for economic growth and work opportunities, and from different aspects. There are such a huge variety of options, like you were saying, Ryan. Helping shelters, working with kids, working with elderly. They're like working in LGBT community. There's such huge need, and if you have that time and if you're willing, reach out to any nonprofit, and if you don't know, reach out to Volunteer Manitoba, and they will do the matching, or reach out to Spark if you have some skill that might be needed. That's yeah.
I was going to ask Alexandra what her final message would be for the listeners, and I think you did that beautifully. I didn't even have to ask it. So Alexandra, thank you so much for this conversation, and you're an inspiration for me and hopefully the listeners, and I'm sure we'll get a little bit more volunteering out there because of what you're doing, what you've said here today.
Happy to have.
Thank you so much.
To be here.
Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Community of Big Hearts with Stu Starkey. If you know someone in your community who is a leader doing great things and driving change, a contributor who is on a passionate mission to help their community through a nonprofit or a foundation, or a community member just doing their part to make their community a better place, please send Stu an email and let him know, and maybe they can be featured on a future episode of the Community of Big Hearts. You can email Stu at stu, at twosmallmen.com. Again, that's stu at twosmallmen.com. Thank you again for listening.